As we continue to explore ways of improving our workflows, we soon encounter the Essential Graphics panel. Now, the Essential Graphics panel offers us a method for both overriding and versioning different properties from within different layers. What does that mean? Well, in this composition, I am going to, by the way, to open up the Essential Graphics panel, go to Window, Essential Graphics. It's right there. So now in this window, I'm going to create a new box. So I'm going to go shape layer, and to that shape layer, I am going to add a rectangle, and I'm going to add a fill. Now, two simple things that we've done several times throughout the semester. Notice that every time that we add these things, however, we are adding a new set of components or a set of properties that affect the way this showcases in the actual composition window. So what does that mean? Well, many of these things can be changed dynamically. You see that they all have keyframes. And not only that, they can actually be changed through versioning in other subsequent precompositions. You also have the transformation values that belong to that particular layer, the original transformation values. So let's go ahead and collapse this for just a second, and I'm simply going to select the layer, and I'm going to call its position value. So I'm going to press P. I'm going to move that box over here, and I'm going to set a keyframe there. I'm going to go to the 2-second mark, and I am going to set another keyframe here. So nothing fantastic. We simply move the box across the screen with the main values for position by pressing P on the keyboard. So that's fine. That's the change that I want. In this case, however, what I want to do is I want to choose from my Essential Graphics box, I want to choose that composition, box move, so that I can see the elements that are in here in that composition. And then what I want to do is with the layer selected, I want to press this solo supported properties. This filters out the properties that are available to me for placing inside the Essential Graphics panel. So in this case, what I want to do is I know eventually I want to change that object's size. So I want to go ahead and click and drag size from here to here. I also want to change the roundness of its corners. I most likely would want to change the color of the object. And from the main transformations, I want to change the position, for example. So, and then maybe rotation as well. So let's go ahead and add those in there. So I have these 5 properties from the original composition that I have moved into the Essential Graphics panel. Now let's go ahead and collapse this for just a second and let me create a new composition. In this composition, I'm going to call versions. And what this is going to do is, let me switch the color, that's fine. Let me make it 10 seconds, that's fine. And let me go ahead and drop that in here. So now that that composition has been created, what I'll do is I'll move the box move composition, which is this one, into this composition here. Now, you'll notice that my box is moving across the screen just like we expected. Basically, this is a precomposition. However, the new thing is that when I uncollapse this layer, I now not only have the transformation values for that layer, but I also have a drop-down for the essential properties. This is what we call the master properties. And these master properties basically allow us to see the different elements that we had placed from that box move composition that we have placed inside the Essential Graphics into this composition. I have control over those things here in my timeline here. What does that mean? Well, it means that I can go ahead and control the way this looks via those property listings inside Essential Graphics in the new composition. The good thing about this, for example, is that I am testing this and I see, okay, that box is taking too long to go across the screen. It's taking 2 seconds. I actually wanted to change in 1 second. Well, I have that position value, or that those position keyframes that I had set up in the previous composition, I have them available here. So if I move this, let's say upstream, now my composition here placed in 1 second, which is what I want. The beautiful thing about this is that my original composition, let me call its position values, has not changed. So I have the original speed. Nothing has been changed in here. It only changed in the version of it that I have in here. Now you notice that you have these little icons that show up on the right-hand side of your Essential Panels box, Essential Properties box. If you look at what they do, basically you can pull information back from the original. So if I click on this, my keyframe should move back to where it was before. Let me undo that. Or I can push this to the original composition. So if I like this change and I want to push it to the original composition, I can go ahead and say push it. And when it does, notice that my keyframe here changes. So basically, I just undid it. So notice that basically you have a way of affecting the version of it here and then pushing those changes back to the original. For those of you who have worked in a program like InDesign, this is the same thing as overwriting the text changes that you make to a style within a specific style that you've created, let's say titles or content or any of those things. You can override those styles. Same thing, same concept. That's what we're doing here. Beautiful thing also about this is that all these change based on what I'm doing, the changes that I'm doing to the essential graphics properties. So for example, say I want to change the roundness of this thing. So I'll go ahead and set a keyframe for roundness. And then at 1 second, I want to make it completely round. So with that done, actually I overdid it. I only need a few pixels. There you go, like that, for example. So it changes, it becomes a circle over time. Now, that doesn't change my original composition, as you see. This remains as a rectangle. And I can change things like color, for example. So I can go ahead and make this a different color if I want to. I can even keyframe it over time if I want to make the color a different color altogether over time. I can change the color by creating keyframes for it. I can change the rotation values for it. So for example, let's say I want to make copies of this. So I'm going to make a copy, Control D, a couple of copies. Now, I want to change the position of this second copy. Now, I'm not going to use the position values for the actual layer for this. I am going to use the position values for the Essential Graphics one. The reason for that is because if I change the position values of the box of the second copy by moving it, I am moving, as you can see, the entire layer, and that might not be what I want. However, if I change it from the position values here, my layer remains where it's at, and the copy is what changes. So if I make say another keyframe here where I move this down to here, now I have that change happening over time. Let's say I want to make that green. So I have now that composition. And then let's say for this one, I want to move the whole thing up. So I want to move it up this way. So I have control over the basically the same graphic, but over time I am changing the values for each one of the versions, giving me the ability to test many things and say, for example, I don't like the speed of the second one. I want it to go faster. Well, let's see if I can go ahead and move that here and see if that is going to go a little, that with the roundness, sorry, the position changed. So let's say, for example, I want to compress this. So I can go ahead and speed that one up without affecting the others and without affecting the original one. So remember, to solo the things that you can add into this, you select the composition that you want to solo in here, and then click the supported solo properties, and that will give you a listing of the things that you can actually move into the actual Essential Graphics panel. Where this gets interesting is when you start working with text. So for example, let me create a new text composition. New. I'm going to call it text comp. And in this composition, I am going to create a title. So I'm going to say new text, and I'm going to call this is text. I'm going to say that. All right. So with that text selected, notice that the text layer has been created. Let me actually make it a different color so we actually see what we're doing. All right. And now you'll notice that the text basically has properties that you can move in here. Let's switch my composition inside the Essential Graphics to look at the text comp and say solo supported properties, and there they are. Amongst them is this actual source for the text, which is this. So what does that mean? Well, let me put that in there really quick. I'm only going to do this one for the text. So, okay. So there it is. Let me go ahead and undo that really quick. Sorry, I apologize for that. I created a keyframe for that. Let me go ahead and add it in here. And this gives me an error. Property unrelated to text comp and will not affect rendering. All right, so let's go ahead and that's odd. That shouldn't be happening. Let me delete that. So I'll select this here, the property that I added. Let me remove it. Let me select text comp again, text comp, solo supported properties. There it is. And I'm just simply going to grab the text. It keeps on giving me that error. Why is that? That's interesting. That hadn't happened before. So let's go ahead and plow through and see if we can make it work. So what I'm going to do right here is for the source text, I'm going to click a keyframe here, and then I'm going to click another keyframe here at 1 second, and I'm going to add another keyframe by clicking on the little diamond shape. And this I am going to change the text. Okay. You'll notice that every keyframe basically will contain a different set of text, which is great. Now, let's go ahead and grab that text composition, bring it into this composition here. So I'm going to drop in the text composition here. Boom. And let me delete this version of this. Yes. So what I want to do now is I want to move this text composition I already did into the new text box, into my versions composition. And what I want to do now is I want to open up the values for it. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, hold up for just a second. So this text composition doesn't have any essential graphics on it. No, it does not. There it is. Boom, text comp. So for that one is the one that I want to add this. There you go. So I had two text composition text composition comps in my project. Sorry. So there it is. And so this one is the one that has the changes to it. There it is. So everything's working now. Let's go back to the versions. And there it is. My essential graphics, my essential properties becomes available to me. Now, through time, I can go back into these text keyframes that I had created. And I don't have to have a keyframe either, by the way. I can just go ahead and change it by doing the following. I can go ahead and right-click on it and say Edit Value. And when I click Edit Value, this tells me, okay, you can change the text now. So this is this new text. Click OK. And that becomes the keyframe value for that particular keyframe. The second one remains as what, and the original one remains as this is text. So it does not affect the original. So you have the ability to control the content of actual text inside the text layer by using Essential Graphics. So you can see how this workflow allows you to create a lot of versions of things fairly fast, and actually modify things fairly quick without affecting an original master copy, let's call it that, or a master comp, and test different things until you get the effect that you're looking for within your motion graphics.